I, 26M. Never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. My ex-girlfriend Priya, 24F, was a serial cheater, but not in the normal way. She didn't go out to bars to look for random guys, and she wasn't scrolling through dating apps behind my back. No, Priya had a specific, twisted kink. She only wanted men I brought into her life. If I valued a relationship, whether it was a lifelong friend, a family member, or a respected coworker, she made it her personal mission to corrupt it. Looking back, the signs were there, but in the beginning, I was completely blinded. When we first started dating, I thought I had won the lottery. Priya was gorgeous, charming, intelligent, and possessed this magnetic energy that drew everyone in the room toward her. Honestly, I thought she was totally out of my league. For the first 6 months, our relationship felt absolutely perfect. We rarely argued. The chemistry was off the charts, and she constantly showered me with affection. I thought I had found the woman I was going to marry. I was so proud of her that I wanted to introduce her to everyone in my life. And that was my first mistake. The first incident happened when I invited my sister's fiancé, Dave, over to our place for a weekend barbecue. I wanted Dave to feel like part of the family, so I pulled out all the stops. During the afternoon, I noticed Priya being overly flirty with him. She was laughing a little too loudly at his jokes, leaning in close when they spoke, and constantly finding excuses to touch his arm. I felt a slight ping of discomfort, but I quickly brushed it off. I told myself I was just being paranoid and insecure, and that she was just trying to be friendly and welcoming to my future brother-in-law. 2 weeks later, the illusion shattered. My sister called me, absolutely sobbing. She had gone through Dave's phone and found a string of highly inappropriate texts. It turned out that during the barbecue, Priya had cornered Dave in the garage while he was grabbing a bag of ice, gotten his number under the guise of planning a surprise party for me, and immediately started sending him explicit photos that night. Dave, to his credit, shut it down and confessed to my sister, but the damage was done. When I confronted Priya, she didn't even blink. The tears flowed instantly, and she completely gaslit me. She cried, "He's lying. He made a pass at me in the garage, and I rejected him. He's just trying to ruin our relationship before I tell your sister the truth." I was so deeply manipulated and so desperate to preserve my perfect relationship that I stupidly believed her. I defended her to my family, creating a massive rift between my sister and me. Fast forward about 6 months later, and the second incident occurred. My childhood best friend, Mark, was going through a rough patch and came to stay with us for a week while looking for a new apartment in the city. By this point, I thought the drama with Dave was an isolated misunderstanding. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to get a glass of water. As I walked down the hallway, I saw the television glowing in the living room. Priya and Mark were sitting on the couch together. They weren't doing anything explicitly physical yet, but the vibe in the room was entirely wrong. They were sitting way too close, whispering, and the moment I walked in, they both jumped apart guiltily. The tension was palpable. The very next morning, Mark packed his bags early. Before he left, he pulled me aside outside. "Bro, I love you, but I can't stay here," he told me, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Priya is actively throwing herself at me. She came into the living room last night wearing next to nothing and started talking about how lonely she gets. I'm leaving before things get messed up." That was the moment the scales finally fell from my eyes. The psychological toll of that realization hit me like a freight train. I sat in my car and stared into space for an hour. I started putting the pieces together and realized this wasn't about validation, and it wasn't about a high-sex drive. It was a sick, calculated power trip. She wanted to conquer and destroy the relationships I valued most. She wanted to see if she could pull the strings of the people closest to me, to prove to herself that she had ultimate control over my world. She wanted to completely isolate me until I had no one left but her. A few weeks later, I decided to test my theory. I brought home my coworker, Alex, for dinner to celebrate a recent promotion we had both worked hard for. Alex was a great guy, incredibly professional, and happily married. Throughout the dinner, Priya ran her usual script: the intense eye contact, the subtle brushing of hands, the suggestive comments masked as jokes. But this time I was ready. Before Alex arrived, I had left my iPad synced to her phone's text messages and social media accounts sitting face down on the kitchen counter. Within 3 hours of Alex leaving our apartment, the iPad lit up. I picked it up and watched in real time as she messaged him on Instagram. The message read, "You looked so hot tonight in that suit. My boyfriend doesn't need to know. We should grab lunch sometime." Alex, being a total stand-up guy and a true professional, didn't even reply to her. Instead, he immediately screenshot the message and texted it directly to my personal phone with a note saying, "Hey man, I think your girlfriend's account got hacked, or she's crossing a major line. Thought you should know." Staring at that screenshot, something snapped inside me. But it wasn't sadness. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, and I didn't storm into the bedroom to confront her. The intense pain and betrayal suddenly hardened into pure, cold, mathematical calculation. I realized that if I just broke up with her normally, she would lie, spin the narrative, play the victim, and convince everyone in our social circle that I was a paranoid, abusive psycho. She would never stop until she successfully ruined my reputation. So, I decided right then and there to play her own game. If she wanted to hunt the men in my life, I was going to give her exactly what she wanted. I was going to introduce her to a final boss she was absolutely not prepared for. I picked up my phone and dialed the one person who could help me pull off the ultimate trap, my cousin Leo. Leo wasn't just a cousin, he was a force of nature. He lived in Chicago, had a job that paid way too much for a guy his age, and possessed this kind of effortless, arrogant charisma that made people orbit him. He was tall, perfectly groomed, and had that golden boy look that screams confidence. But beneath that exterior, Leo had a core of steel. Years ago, his mother, the woman he idolized, had destroyed his father's life and left their family in ruins after a string of serial infidelities. Ever since, Leo viewed cheaters the same way a hunter views vermin. He didn't just dislike them, he actively despised them. When I called him and laid everything out, the texts from Dave, the situation with Mark, the Instagram message from Alex, Leo didn't offer pity. He didn't give me the "just break up with her" lecture. There was a long silence on the line, followed by a dark chuckle. "Say less, bro," he said, his voice cold and resolute. "She wants a game? Let's play. We're going to ruin her life in such a way that she'll never want to look at another man again. Bring her to dinner on Saturday." I staged a welcome home dinner at a high-end, glass-walled restaurant in the city center. I told Priya that Leo was moving back to town permanently and wanted to meet her. The moment she saw him, it was like watching a predator lock onto prey. It wasn't just physical attraction, it was the thrill of the chase. She was instantly magnetic, ignoring me entirely to focus her full, predatory attention on Leo. She laughed too loudly at his jokes, brushed his arm constantly, and played with her hair in that specific way she did when she was marking territory. Leo played his part with terrifying perfection. He was aloof, giving her just enough eye contact to make her think she was winning, but never enough to actually commit. He leaned in, spoke in a low voice, and effectively drew her into his web. I sat there, sipping my drink, watching the woman I used to love actively trying to seduce my cousin right in front of me. It should have hurt. Instead, I felt nothing but a dark, cold satisfaction. The trap was sprung. As expected, Priya did exactly what she always did. She got Leo's number from my phone while I was asleep that night. For the next 3 weeks, Leo and I sat on my couch, beers in hand, watching the drama unfold on his phone. The texts were brutal. They went from "hope you're having a good day" to explicit, unhinged fantasies in record time. What hurt the most, and strangely, what gave me the most resolve, was reading what she said about me. She told Leo that I was emotionally abusive, that I was lazy and boring in bed, and that she was merely biding her time, planning to leave me for a real man like him. Reading those lies burned, but it was the fuel I needed. I didn't care about the pain anymore. I cared about the destruction. Leo finally told her he couldn't handle the guilt of doing this behind my back. He gave her an ultimatum. If she really wanted him, she had to prove it. He demanded they meet at a luxury hotel downtown for a weekend getaway, while I was supposedly away on a business trip. Priya didn't hesitate. She looked me dead in the eye that morning, told me she was going to visit her sick grandmother for the weekend, and hugged me. I even packed her bag for her, forcing a smile while I internally laughed at her audacity. This wasn't just about catching her. That was too simple. This was about public exposure. I wanted her to see her world crumble in the eyes of the people who protected her. I reached out to her parents, who always coddled her and blamed me for every disagreement, her best friend, who was an active enabler, and my sister, who still held a grudge over the Dave situation. I invited them all to a surprise anniversary dinner at the very same high-end hotel restaurant where Leo had booked the room. When we sat down at the table, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Her parents were confused, asking why they were there and where Priya was. I kept my composure, telling them she was running late, but had a huge surprise for everyone, a surprise that would change the way they saw our relationship forever. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text from Leo in the room upstairs. My heart hammered against my ribs, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of the endgame. She's here. She's in her underwear. I'm delaying her. Bring the circus. I stood up, signaled to the group, and gestured toward the elevator. It was time. I stood up from the dinner table, adjusted my jacket, and looked directly at her family. Actually, I said, keeping my voice entirely calm, Priya is already here. She's just upstairs. Follow me. I want you all to see the surprise together. Her dad looked utterly confused, muttering something about her being irresponsible, while her mom was smiling, genuinely believing I was about to propose or pull off some grand romantic gesture. My sister, however, caught my eye. She saw the cold look in my expression and immediately looked suspicious. She knew something heavy was about to go down. We all piled into the elevator in silence and walked down the long, carpeted hallway of the 4th floor until we reached room 402. I didn't knock. I pulled out the spare key card Leo had slipped into my hand earlier that afternoon, swiped it, watched the little light turn green, and pushed the door wide open. The room was dimly lit, bathed in a soft, romantic golden glow. Romantic music was playing softly from a Bluetooth speaker. Priya was standing right by the edge of the king-sized bed, wearing expensive, crimson lace lingerie. She was holding 2 crystal flutes of champagne, a sultry, expectant smile plastered across her face. She was completely ready to give herself to my cousin. But instead of Leo stepping out of the bathroom to claim his prize, she looked up to see me, her parents, her enabling best friend, and my sister all walking into the room in a single file line. The silence that followed was deafening. The sultry smile instantly vanished from Priya's face. The 2 crystal champagne glasses slipped from her fingers, crashing and shattering violently against the hardwood entryway floor, splattering alcohol everywhere. Every single drop of color drained from her face until she was ghostly white. She actually stumbled backward against the bed, her jaw trembling. She looked like she was looking at a firing squad. Her dad's eyes went wide, his face turning an angry shade of purple. He immediately roared, "What the hell is the meaning of this?" Before Priya could even open her mouth to spin a lie, the bathroom door opened. Leo walked out, fully clothed in a sharp suit, completely unfazed by the chaos. He didn't look at her with desire. He looked at her with pure disgust. "She thought she was meeting me," Leo said, his voice echoing calmly in the quiet room. He walked right past Priya, ignored her completely, and handed his phone directly to her dad. On the screen, he had pulled up a pre-prepared slideshow folder containing every single toxic, explicit, and manipulative text message she had sent him over the past 3 weeks, including the messages where she called me abusive and pathetic. Priya realized she was completely cornered. The trapped animal inside her came out, and she tried to scream at me, her voice cracking frantically. "You're a psycho. You set me up. This is a sick joke." But she didn't even get to finish her sentence. Her own mother, shaking with rage and deep embarrassment, stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. "Shut up, Priya," her mom hissed. My sister just stood near the door, her arms crossed, a look of pure, unadulterated satisfaction on her face. The vindication for what Priya had done to her and Dave was finally absolute. I looked at Priya, completely detached from any emotion. "Your bags are already packed," I told her flatly. "They're sitting in the trunk of your dad's car right now. Don't ever call me, text me, or look in my direction again. We are done." I turned around, walked out of the room, and left her to deal with the absolute wrath of her own family. Leo followed right behind me, shutting the door on her desperate crying. We went downstairs to the hotel restaurant, ordered 2 of the most expensive ribeye steaks on the menu, and toasted our glasses to a job well done. It's been 6 months since that night, and honestly, life has never been better. Priya actually tried to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress a couple of months ago, But the moment her lawyers saw the evidence and realized she was trying to sue over a situation she actively walked into, he laughed her out of his office. She is now completely isolated. Her parents were so humiliated by her behavior that they barely speak to her. Her enabling best friend distanced herself to save her own skin, and her reputation in our entire social circle is entirely ruined. Everyone knows exactly what kind of monster she is.